Flag Day, June 14th, 2020. National strike, and 330 million Americans together march on Washington, demanding a parliamentary system and a socio-democratic revolution in the United States. Joe Biden versus Trump, 2020 BC. Poor old Joe Biden. He's not doing too well with his campaign for president in 2020. Much of what he does seems odd, and some of the things he says are mean. And some of the things he says are outright lies. Poor good old common man's friend, Joe Biden. The great man of tremendous heart for the poor, struggling masses. A man who got lucky and became a man of powerful influence in the august halls of government power. Or at least, this is the myth he believes in. He kisses and fondles the babies and young ones, and sniffs and gropes his way to a false sense of intimacy, all a product of a gross, well-intentioned, great man conceit that he is a superior person of mythic proportions. He shares this same gross narcissism with Trump and stands as the perfect example of the unseen elephant and donkey in the room. The two wings of the establishment, presented as opposition, are exactly the same. The Democratic Workers' Party has been bought and sold to the highest bidders that also co-opted the liberal Republicans and made them a goose-stepping, self-righteous servant of the rich and powerful warmongers of the corporate state. They are playing their shoddy and superficial political hacks in a world of instant research that exposes them for what they really are: mediocre and dull-minded, obsolete dinosaurs, mere spokesmen for the corporations, outdated by the emerging technological advances of the 21st century. These old boys are still staggering around in the tar pits of the 50s, unaware and unable to perceive the asteroid wave of progressive change that will sweep them all away on a tide of decency, compassion, generosity, and good common sense. This new emerging true populism of Bernie Sanders will prove them obsolete and bring them all to justice for all their lies and manipulations that made them the millionaire stooges of the trillionaire gangsters that rule and ruin our world. These lawless titans of gangster capitalism are guilty of decades of crimes against the future of all humanity. Bernie's list of corruption serves well as the urgent call for men like Biden to realize their day is done. Their old militant empire, Babylon the Greater, has fallen. The big pharmas, the insurance companies, the Wall Street investors, and the big business financiers, and the fossil fuel companies, and the Federal Reserve cartel, and other too-big-to-fail banks and predatory lenders, the auto industry, and the injustice system of mass incarceration slave labor, and the wage slavery of the hard-working poor living in the tyranny of necessity that is abject and hopeless poverty. These are the true enemies of mankind's future, gangster capitalists of the pampered rich, not the poor refugees fleeing from the billions made from the drug war in Latin America, or the heroin overdoses and addictions of the poppy wars, or the world that runs and burns away from obsolete coal and oil wars. America, it is time to rise up against this elitist con game of lies. Demand a socio-democratic president to carry on the work of greater men like FDR and JFK. Democrats who were rich men who wanted to serve the country that blessed them with wealth. Men like Bernie Sanders and Michael Moore, and Professor Cornel West, and good women like Maureen Williamson, AOC, and the rest of the squad, and Major Tulsi Gabbard, and Senator Nina Turner. These are the voices crying out for peace, economic justice, and equality under the law. Joe Biden and Trump, and a host of others that seem fair but feel foul, reeking of fake platitudes and fake populism, like Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, Mayor Pete Buttigieg, and Liz Warren, and billionaire Trump wannabes like crusty old Joe Biden, Tom Steyer, and Bloomberg, trying to buy their way into political power. These charlatans are increasingly unable to survive in a world that has left them so far behind. They are screaming their last screams as they sink into the inky black tar pits of their corrupt past. The consequences of narcissism and greed prove them to be terribly short-sighted and weak when all they really want is to appear to be good and strong and superior. Such is the bully's plight. Pull off the mask, and you reveal the frightened little boy lost long ago to that fake strong man. Corporate America is that staggering bully, forcing itself on the oil and poppy-rich lands of the Middle East for drugs and oil we do not need anymore. This is the sickness of narcissism. The bloated ego thinks it has the power to do the important mission, but in the end, they have no idea how to lead anyone and nowhere to go if they do get the power. For 50 years, I have watched this country sink into fascism, always doing the wrong thing and picking the wrong liar to lead us always deeper into this fascist corporate dark disaster. No, sooner or later, the consequences of holding back the future create the revolution that sweeps away the old structures and, after a very dangerous time of chaos, replaces them with new and better ones. It happened in the 20th century after World War II, when Europe emerged out of the rubble of mechanized world war, demanding a better deal than the rule of gangster capitalists. Americans demanded nothing, and Americans got nothing. Ralph Nader. It is decades past time to demand a Green New Deal and a 21st century new economic Bill of Rights that includes all these so-called radical socialist ideas we cannot afford. By bringing this tinseled age of gangster trillionaires to a close and making $1 billion in personal wealth the cap on capitalism. The rest is taxed at 100%. Tax the rich, tax the churches, tax big business, expand and enhance Social Security and the social safety net. By not spending $800 trillion every fucking year building weapons for the benefit of the few international fascist gangster capitalists, trillionaire weapons manufacturers, and oil barons, and their government stooges in the Supreme Court, Congress, the presidency, and the Pentagon, working not for the people or the advancement of our civilization or the survival of future generations, but only for their wholly corrupt, neo-fascist, militant empire. Flag Day, June 14th, 2020. National strike, and 330 million Americans together march on Washington, demanding a parliamentary system and a socio-democratic revolution in the United States. Let us not go extinct. Save the future now before it's too late.
I am Lunge the Dinosaur, and I approve this message. Thank you. Let us not go extinct.